I'm so excited. It's Black
Oh, it's
History
filling up.
Month.
I can see it filling up. Oh man.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. We'll just take a couple of minutes and making sure this live Facebook is going happening. It's always really strange when you're going live on Facebook. Okay. Oh, I can see myself. Okay. This is the first time. Okay. I now figured out what I've been doing wrong on Facebook Live. I'm glad. Yes. I've been putting it as to only me that can see the Facebook Live and not everyone else. So that's definitely, yes.
Yeah, Facebook Live is it's a little challenging. I'm still kind of figuring it all out.
Okay. So I guess we'll go ahead and get started. Hello, everyone. I just want to welcome you. My name is Danielle Coe. I am the CEO and founder of Black Women in Clinical Research. Today, we are going to be talking about sickle cell in the Black community. And so we have our Black History series that we're doing for every Thursday. We're going to be talking about different issues that affect Blacks in the Black community. And so today we have my cousin Vivian Talbert. We have Adam Brown Sr., who will be our speaker. And so we're just going to dive in and talk about sickle cell and how it affects the Black community. And a lot of people are not aware of how it really affects the community and how, they might be carrying the trait. I kind of looked up some information about sickle cell just to inform myself. And I saw that some of the facts were that 1 in 13 African Americans actually carry the sickle cell trait. And I know even though, people might carry the trait, we don't really talk about it in the Black community. We don't really talk about it in the families. And what I also notice is a lot of times when anyone has a illness or a sickness, we don't really find out who else might be carrying this or, really even do genetic testing. So kind of, the theme of tonight, I would say, is to advocate like truth. If you can see my Black History poster behind me, lead like Douglas, dream like Tubman, and innovate like Walker, and educate like Langston. So we're going to go ahead and have my cousin Vivian introduce herself and start with talking about how sickle cell has affected her life.
Good evening. My name is Vivian Talbert. My daughter suffers from the disease. She had wanted to be a part of this webcast. However, right now she is actually hospitalized due to her sickle cell disease. We did not find out she had the disease until she was 3 years old. My husband at the time was in the military. They did not diagnose her until she was 3 years old, until I came back to the States. She was sick for 3 years. And in her struggles, I kept saying that there was something wrong with her. I was a new mother. They told me that there was nothing wrong with her. They told me that she was spoiled. They told me a lot of different things, but they did not diagnose her with sickle cell disease. So for 3 years, she had pneumonia. She would hold her hands real funny because there was a lot of pain. So we watched her go through a lot. So when I came to Detroit, I said that I wanted her tested for everything because I knew that there was something very, very wrong. And that's when we found out she had sickle cell disease. Uh, at an early age, I was a college student. I went to University of Michigan in Ann Arbor, and I was tested for it, but we have what we call SC. So I think at that time, they did not recognize that SC with a person who had the sickle cell, the SS gene, would have a child that had sickle cell disease. So in other words, some of her cells will be round like a bullseye, which she gets from me, and some of them will be S-shaped from her father. So, but she still suffers from the disease. She is right now, she's 43 years old. And she's also an advocate, and she tries to educate other people about the disease, as well as to talk with young people who have the disease, to be a mentor for them. I'm awfully, awfully proud of her. I asked her some of the talking points that she wanted about. She wanted people to know about the disease, and most of her talking points was about me, that I supported her and that I was there for her, which she's my shero, because I watch her as she goes through her crises. They're called crises, they're pain episodes. And one day as a little child, and I saw her, because sometimes she just kind of sucks it up and she grunts and she doesn't not necessarily cry out. And I asked her, what does that feel like? And she said, it feels like an elephant that is sitting on my arm or sitting on whatever area it is. Can you imagine an elephant and you can't get it off? I mean, she's 3 and 4 years old. So I can tell you from the perspective of being a parent of some of the things that I've had to do. One of the main things is that I had to take care of myself. When I say take care of myself, if that sounds selfish, that is not selfish at all, because first you have to take care of yourself, because after you see that as a parent, you go through some guilt, wondering why this is happening and did I somehow cause this to happen to my child? So getting rest and sleep. We have 2 other children too as well, to make sure that they are okay, that their life is still as full, that they're in school, that they're in activities, that they're as normal as possible. And I will tell you that my husband and I, we would stay in the hospital with her. We took turns. So we're there 24 hours a day. We had gotten so comfortable that the hospital knew us by name, and we know security by name. We would even know if there was a new guard on deck, because when I would leave, then he would come on board. So it was around the clock type of situation with her. That I got enough sleep, and I also took some time out, because sometimes one year she was in the hospital every month, hit every holiday, and it starts to get to you, because at the same time you want to make sure that your life is as normal as possible. A lot of times, actually, my employers was not aware that she would be sick, because I did not want anybody to say that I was causing any kind of using it as an excuse. Now, everybody's life is different. There was only one time that I actually did say something, and she was an adult by that time, but we'll talk a little bit about that later. The other thing is that to understand my child, to understand what she's going through, because oftentimes she was very reluctant about going to the hospital right away, because we would often take care of things at home. So we used, she actually discovered the way that she would manage her pain. And some of that was that she would focus on other things. So I would try to make her as comfortable as possible at home, making sure she had plenty to drink, that she was eating. And then sometimes after 3 or 4 days at home, I would either make the decision, but most of the time she did. She would tell me, she said, it's time for me to go to the hospital. It's time for me to get an IV. I mean, and she did this very early. So I would take her. Oftentimes the doctors didn't believe it because she was not out of control. She would just simply say, I need some help. So I would have to fight for her in that instance. The other thing is that I was an advocate for her, that I had to tell them, well, she's telling you she needs help. She needs either some kind of pain treatment, or she needs the IV so that she won't become dehydrated. She knows her body better than anybody else. Or for me to become educated about the disease. I would read up on it all the time. And while she's sleeping, at the hospital, they have a library. So here I am. I actually become, in a way, I'm a doctor without a degree. I would go down to the library and I would read everything I could on hematology. People don't know this, but I don't know if they still do it, but I would buy all the books they had that they could sell me. They're only $1 or $5. I take them home, underline them. I would challenge the medical environment on different treatments. Like I found out that giving her oxygen, and some doctors do not like you to tell them what to do. And it wasn't that I was telling them what to do. I was telling them what's best for my child. So they would take the stance that I'm the doctor, you're not. So did I have to push? Absolutely. It did change me. I will tell you that. If she needed anybody, she said, I want my mom. I want my mom to come. And so do I know what a patient advocate is? Do I know what a ombudsman is? Yes, because you have to have a voice and you have to speak up on their behalf. The other piece is that family. I had a lot of family support from her grandparents. Wow, I can't even say. My heart is heavy because they're no longer here. My mother is the only one that's still here. But oftentimes I would literally, from the hospital, she could not walk because she was not strong enough to even walk. I would carry her to my mother-in-law. My mom would just, she would just look, and that one year that we had, it was a very challenging year that she was in the hospital. Can you imagine, every month? And I had to carry her to her and put her in her arms and know that that's the best place for her. She's going to spoil her to death. That's what she needs. She would make sure she has all the drinks that she needs. My father, her grandfather, would buy her favorite food and make sure that she's comfortable. And so they had to be a part of that process too. Again, I had to challenge the medical profession. One time, I knew down in my spirit that things were not right, and that the way that the physician they had given me in the emergency room, that he would push and push to say that he was doing the right things, and I'm like, no, this is not right. I actually had to get her dressed and take her to another hospital. And the thing about it, the other hospital was very open and honest with me. I appreciated it so much from the doctor, because the doctor told me, he said, I don't know that much about sickle cell. Wow. For someone to tell you they didn't know that much about sickle cell and to tell me that I have a friend, he's a hematologist and he's a physician. Can I talk to him? And that we work together on this case. You don't know what that did to me. And I told him, I said, please, thank you. I had left a doctor who was trying to strong arm me and saying some things that were sometimes in a condescending and very negative way, disrespectful too as well. He did talk to his hematology, and surprise, surprise, this hematology doctor said right away, give her oxygen. This is something I already read about, but nobody would do it. He gave her oxygen. She was on her way home within 24 hours. So don't be afraid and think that the doctors knew everything. For 3 years, she suffered. And even put in her medical records, I read in her medical records, they told in her medical records, they had that I had abnormal attachment to my baby. Abnormal attachment to my baby, that I brought her to the hospital, the doctor, 1 or 2 times a week, which is true. I did, because there was something wrong with her. You as a parent instinctively know that there's something wrong, but she suffered for 3 years. 3 years. They made it very, very difficult, and they were often very, again, disrespectful when I came in. Here, it's pretty much, you got to look at their faces and say, oh, here she is. She's here again. Yes, I was here again because there was something wrong. You're telling me that she has worms. I won't even tell you all the gamut that they said. And I did everything that they asked me to, everything. The other thing that I have on my list is that to look at all the resources that you have available to you. I looked at everything so I could make sure that her life was as normal as possible. She attended camp for sickle cell patients. So she did that. She even went on the Freedom Tour, which she often talks about a lot. She actually got sick on the Freedom Tour. She was one of the youngest people they had selected for the Freedom Tour, which I'm awfully proud about. She met Rosa Parks. It was a program that Rosa Parks had done. I encouraged her to be as normal as possible. She had to do her own speech for Rosa Parks and another panel of individuals to be a part of that. And they said, well, you know, she's going to be the youngest individual, youngest participant in the program. And they knew that she had the disease. We had to raise money for her to go to the Freedom Tour. The Freedom Tour took them on all the way on all the places that the Freedom Riders went. It took them down south. She went to Montgomery. She went to Atlanta, where she ultimately met and touched Coretta Scott King. Now that in itself is a story, because she had went to the restroom, and in the ladies' room, she said she was in the ladies, she was in one of the stalls, and she heard a lot of scuffling, and she said that she came out and there was Coretta Scott King. She said that she started talking to her and they became friends. She said that her security guards came in and was trying to find out who Miss King was talking to. And Miss King said, well, you didn't find her when you came in here, because they actually had came in the restroom. And that was the scuffling that she heard. And she said she held her hand. She was with her throughout that day. And she said she sat next to her. And when she called me, she said, I touched her. She smells so good, Mommy. And I said, she smelled good. She said, yes. So I want her to have all of the experiences that any other child would have. So I looked at, and so we embraced the Sickle Cell agency. A lot of the big cities that have them, Detroit is no different. I'm calling you from Hoover, Alabama. I live in Hoover now. But however, she's in Ypsilanti and she's near Ann Arbor. So that's where she lives. I am kind of concerned about her because the weather there is not conducive. It's very cold there. She tried to come this way at one point. And the thing about it is to have educated doctors, again, that do listen. I asked her what are the talking points she wanted to share with the audience here. And most of her talking points was about me. Isn't that something? How a parent is instrumental in ensuring that this child grows up with everything that they need, that they are a person who is fulfilled in who they are, that they know and they can stand in their own truth. That is something that I've also been, and I will tell you that my faith has been instrumental in that too, as well as a lot of people that stood in the gap for us with prayer and just a little bit of everything. And knowing that there's sometimes I need to walk away so I can continue to be strong in the process of raising a child who has a challenging disease. So I think that it's just not just for sickle cell, but for a parent whose child has any type of medical issue to understand the things that they need to do and go through. Did I get a book on any of this? No, I did not. I had to go through a process to learn about these things and know that I have to understand what it is that comes with being a parent, and also with a parent that has a child that has a disease. Also balancing that life for her sisters to ensure that they also have everything that they need to grow up to be very well-adjusted individuals too as well. I also worked with the school too. Because that year that she had was in the hospital every month. The school sent her homework. The hospital had tutors that came to her to help her with her homework. I helped her with her homework so that she wouldn't get behind. So she graduated on time. She did everything that she should have done developmentally wise to make sure that we did all of those things. So again, that's finding out all of the resources that you need for her. I'm trying to look at her talking points. Well, one of her talking points that she wants to share with everyone was that how I was truly her advocate, and that's what helped her to be very adjusted. She wanted me to talk about one of the times that she had become an adult. And even as an adult, you think that, oh, everything's okay. They're on their way, and you're excited that you've done everything. The first time and the only time I had to share with one of my employers that I had a child that had medical issues was she had called me, and I was actually at work. And she said that a doctor was trying to give her a treatment that in the past had made her sick. And she had told this doctor she did not want the treatment and it was not necessary. But they were they were on their, I hate to say high horse, but they told her, no, you're going to get this treatment. Now she was a consenting adult, but they're still trying to push her to do this. And she had to call me and she said, I need you to come. And she said that she's not listening. And I actually had to stop what I was doing and I had to go and see about my child and also threaten them with, I will sue you with everything that I got. You continue to do this. If I find out you're doing this, I'm there in the room with her to ensure that they not give her that treatment because it would make her sick. It wasn't something that was like that she needed in order to continue her life. I had to even call her doctor, who we later found out who was very, very humble. He was actually the chief of staff. So he came. He did not realize this was going on. So you have to call out all the troops in order to make it happen. But she was telling us what she's going to do and that we don't know what we're talking about and all of these things. It was Kara and I can tell you so many, many stories, and you are going to be so very, very surprised at some of the things that we've had to go through. One time she was in Ohio. Again, she is so gutsy and that she will try things. Even as a child, she would always push the envelope. Oh, one example is that my children have been in private schools. And so she had to have one of those marathons where they tried to raise money. Well, her teacher knew about the disease, so I made sure that they were educated because at first they weren't educated on the disease. She was in kindergarten, and I told the kindergarten teacher, I said, she's going to have to go to the restroom a lot. She didn't quite understand that. And so I had to give her information about the disease. Well, in the marathon, people had made pledges for her to do these laps and had to make her understand that she did all the laps, but yet after the laps, she was hospitalized. So I had to explain to her that nobody expected her to do all of the laps. She needs to do what she can do, and that they are going to give her their pledges because they know what she can do. It's still the same. It equals the same thing. Here was her loving teacher carrying her when I went to pick her up from school, having her in her arms, and tears were coming out of her eyes. She said, I didn't watch her. And I told her that's okay. But to teach her that she has to make sure she monitors her own disease and understand that there's so much that she can do. And it's nothing wrong with that. You're not like the other children. You are not. So to understand that too, and sometimes to be very, very tough about things. She also had on here as a talking point that she said she loved that I would go to the library and I would read up on different things and that I would study the disease and any research that came out of it, and also what was the pros on that research and what was some of the things that were not so good about it. So we weren't quick oftentimes to try this and try that, but I would also know as a parent that arm myself with as much education as I could, because when the doctors come to me and they would often want to say some different things, it was frustrating to me. And she said it was frustrating to me, to them actually. It wasn't me. It was frustrating to them that sometimes I would know more than they did. And they would get angry about that. I have no problem about saying that. nobody is God, but sometimes I would run up against some personalities that were sometimes like that. To know that I still got to push against that, and often say to them, well, guess what? I need another physician because you're not listening. I need somebody to listen. She has on her talking points. She remembers when I drove to Dayton, Ohio. She was in Ohio again. She is one that's very adventurous and will do everything that she can to be as normal as possible. She had went to Dayton. Her and her father were in Dayton, and she was working there, and she got hospitalized there. These were new doctors. She called me and said, they're not listening. I just simply said, okay, I'll be right there. She looked around and I drove and I was there. And I could see the relief on her face because her dad sometimes out of his love, he didn't know exactly what to do. He oftentimes didn't have the right questions, but there was a balance in there because you have to have the love, but then you still have to have a person who's aggressive enough and to be an advocate for them. So she recalls all of those things, and those were her talking points that she wanted to share. Again, mine is that also to be instinctively as a parent, to say that God has given me some instincts. I don't have a doctor's degree. I have a master's. I'm pretty smart. And I don't think that you even have to have a master's degree, but to have the love and the aggressiveness to educate yourself and to say that some of the things that you're seeing instinctively are not right. They're not right. So to make that right, that you also have the right that people teach you with dignity and respect. You have the right for them to teach you with dignity and respect. I could probably write my own book even about that. That goes a long ways. So it's basically what I came on to talk about. I hope that she's listening to this. She's in her hospital bed. She's listening to this. She knew already that she had pneumonia. I was there this weekend, and she said that I've got it. I've got pneumonia. And I said, okay. I said, promise me that you'll go to your doctor. She did. She's probably laughing because one of the talking points she has on here is that she got a new doctor. I know her so well. She wanted to go home. And I said, what happened? And she told me, she said, he came in and she said, I just want to need some medicine. Let me go home. And I said, you saw him. You knew he was new. You sized him up. And you're like, oh, I can get him to send me home. And he had been talking to her doctor. And he went out of the room and he came back. And he pulled up a chair. And her doctor knows her really, really well. See, that's another thing, to have a good doctor who listens to you and gets to know you. He knew her and he told him that she's going to give you a hard time. She can be stubborn because she knows herself. He said, in this instance, based upon everything that you're telling me, don't send her home. Don't let her go home. So me and her were both laughing because I even word for word told her exactly what happened. I said, oh, I know what happened. You saw him? And he was like, oh, he's new. I'm getting ready to teach him. So he is now educated about her, and that education has come from her physician. And so we were both laughing about it. But I have a comfort level. I'm here and she's there, that she knows herself. She's in the hands of some good medical treatment, and they're doing all the right things. Do I worry about her? Yes, I'm a parent. I worry all the time. And I'm always sending her this is where Adam is coming in. I always send her new treatment and tell her, what are you hearing about this? What do you know? Because I want her to live a good life and a long life.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I can't thank you enough for sharing that your daughter's journey and just experience with sickle cell. I think so. Just to give people a background on myself, my company Clinarc, our mission is to increase clinical trial awareness and access. we were afforded the opportunity, and it's actually an honor, to work in the sickle cell space. At the time when I got the project, I didn't know that it would become a passion of mine, to be honest with you. But the more I researched it, the more I started to uncover the layers that, come with sickle cell. I started to realize that a lot of the things that impact people that deal with this illness also come with just being African American, right? And it really struck me, like, I've talked to hundreds of people with sickle cell. We host talks each week to really understand their story, their journey, and people from the UK, the US, Africa, they all join in on these talks, right? And I started to also understand the value, and like you said, listening, like not, because you can sit there and talk and read articles, scientific articles, you can do all those things, but until you listen to the people that actually are dealing with the stuff that you're reading about, it's really hard for you to understand the nuances and the issues that come with the challenges. So one thing that stood out to me throughout these talks that I was having was the issues around pain. Hearing how they would go to the hospital and have their pain disregarded, or be called drug seeking. When it's when it's as simple as, like, imagine if you dealt with something like pain every day, or just it's trauma. Like, it's traumatizing to experience something like that every single day, right? And then you become used to it. You start to understand what drugs you need when you go to the hospital. You start to, so it's not I'm seeking drugs. It's just I know what I need when I get there, and I need it now. You know what I mean? So, and one thing that I read was that 63% of nurses incorrectly believe that, essentially, that people with sickle cell were seeking drug. They were drug seekers, and they were completely wrong. It's no different than anyone else that needs drugs, and that's what they didn't realize. But that also comes with the whole thing I was saying, being Black. I myself experience, I didn't experience, I don't have sickle cell, but again, that's why I'm so passionate about it and about helping people with sickle cells, because I know what it feels like to be judged. I know what it feels like to be in a room where you just kind of like want to fall back because you don't want people to, you just like, I'm just gonna pretend like, I'm not here because I don't even feel like getting the eyes. I don't want people to look at me crazy. I don't want people to judge me, so when we are talking to people and getting to know people, we really start to understand issues better. You can, like I said, you can read as many books as you want. you can do all that stuff, but nothing is better than experience. Nothing is better than going through it. And I will say this, like, I had the discussions. A lot of my work is around designing clinical trials and talking to people about the best way to recruit patients and all those things. And one thing that occurred to me, as we're designing these clinical trials, is like, wait, at no point did we actually talk to the patient first.
Yeah.
At no point did we stop and say, hey, where should we go? You know what I mean? Well, and it occurred to me, like, this is what a patient-centric process looks like. You ask the people where to go, what to do, and then you do it, versus you thinking it up, right? And it's wrong. And that's pretty much how I modeled my business, and I think that's where we have to start going in the future. when we're trying to help people, especially people with sickle cell. It really, like, the story that you just gave me is so consistent with everything that I've heard. It's unbelievable. I mean, I've heard stories where from an individual in Nigeria, right? He was telling me how if you don't have enough money, right, to take care of yourself, it's tough in Nigeria, right? He said he remembers a story where he lost a family member because they were driving around trying to purchase bags of blood, right? Stuff like that. Like, I've heard stories. I have an open door policy. They can, people with sickle, they can text me, they can call me. I have a friend, she texted me yesterday, and she said, I'm frustrated right now because I cannot get my transfusion because they won't let me call in my labs. They won't let me call in to get my labs. They won't let me schedule my labs ahead of time because of COVID and all this stuff.
Mhm.
So there's no hotline. There is no infrastructure in place for people with sickle cell, right? So again, back to clinical trials. When we're developing these clinical trials, we have to think about stuff like this. We have to take more time to understand the people. We have to, not just be there to take, to give people medicine. We have to also be there and asking questions. How can we improve the community? How can we create the infrastructure here so that we can help you? How can we create a long-standing relationship with the community so that it doesn't feel like we're just here to take from you? And that's really one of the things that I'm trying to hit home with in the industry, is that it doesn't have to always be about it doesn't always have to be about, when we're designing these clinical trials, it doesn't always have to be about going into the community and running ads and then seeing how many people we can get from the from those clinical from those marketing campaigns. It needs to be more so a reciprocal effort where we're working hand in hand with the community. And maybe it's like, hey, I can help you get to the site by providing transportation, or if there's issues around care or whatever, maybe I can help you get that care, or maybe I can help you get your kid needs a babysitter, so you can attend the clinical trial, stuff like that. Like, people don't understand what goes along with having sickle cell.
And that's part of those resources that you were talking about.
Mm-hmm.
It's very, very important.
Yep.
You brought up I hope you don't mind me, Adam.
Go ahead. No, please.
Because you brought in a very, very important point about sometimes medical society seeing them as drug addiction, because she was 5 years old and I had a prescription that came from a doctor one time she was one of her episodes. I took it to the pharmacist. Do you know the pharmacist refused to fill it? He said that for a 5-year-old, he said that it was addictive. He said it's too highly addictive. He said, now you can take it down the street and have someone else fill it for you. I appreciated him so much. That was my journey in learning more about the disease. He said that by the time that she is 8 years old, she will be an addict. He said, do you need to understand this, Mom? I appreciated him so much. He came behind the counter and talked to me. He said that this is, do you know what they just gave her? And I said, no, I didn't. I didn't understand it. And he said, this is so highly addictive. She's only 5. He said, she's only 5.
Wow.
So I had to learn how to be my own physician. I read up on it. She was only 5 years old.
Because the people,
and he refused to fill it. He said, I can't do this. He said, I won't. So he had some ethics about him. Some people won't. I mean, he could have filled it and got the money, big deal, and walked away.
It's funny. It's funny that you say that, because it's almost like you have to have that that mentality, because there are so many people around you that don't understand what's happening. You know what I mean? Like, you have to be the barrier that protects your child, because I mean, I have conversations sometimes, and I'm just like, with people that don't understand it, just like, man, it's wow, and it's scary. It really is scary. And like I said, when I have these conversations with people that deal with it, it's heartbreaking. And I was talking to I had a talk last week, and the young lady was like, her voice was cracking. She was almost in tears, and she was just, I could tell that she was like, it was at one of those days for her, where she literally said, everybody's on the call just quiet, and she literally was sounding like she felt like it was over, because she was just like at the end, like she didn't want to keep having pain all the time. And then she would go to the hospital. And also, one thing to mention, they don't want to go to the hospital because of the poor treatment, right?
Yep.
So, it's both ways. Like, so you can't wonder why someone, like, for example, one of the issues with clinical trials is recruitment. How can we, increase diversity, all that stuff, right? If I don't want to go to the hospital, we have to get past that first. We have to understand why don't you want to go to the hospital? Why are they treating you like that at the hospital? Why, how can we improve the experience for you? Because
again, that boils down to that respect, dignity, and to treat each person with dignity and respect. It comes down to that. Like I said, I can write a book, but I don't take it personally. I don't. I'm there because I'm making sure. Yeah, there's a part of me that probably does, but I like, okay, then you got the wrong one. We're getting ready to do whatever we need to do, or I'm getting ready to make some changes. So probably that's why she had me as her talking point, because she'll call me and she'll say, I need you to come. And so I'm like, okay, I'm there. And so she said, when I walk in, oh no, nah, and I'm not mean. I don't think that you have to be mean and you have to be nasty. But they understand that I'm armed with information, and
I have a question for you.
That is difficult sometimes for them.
I have a question for you, actually, if you don't mind me asking. So, what of the experiences that were good, what made them good experiences? If that makes any sense, you know what I mean? Like, when she went to the hospital, what made those experiences like good for her?
Well, the biggest one that was made it good for that they were open and honest and treated us with dignity and respect. Okay. The one example that I told you about, that I took her to another hospital, was that he was open and honest. He said, I don't understand about sickle cell disease. And thank you. Let me talk with another physician and see and come up with some treatment. Would you allow me to do that? Think about that. That's huge. And rather than, you already know, sometimes some doctors don't even know what they're talking about because you're educated about the disease. Yes. And then they're talking down to you in a very condescending way. Sometimes they'll be disrespectful, and that's often a shield for, I really don't know what I'm doing. So instead of them being open and honest with you. So when he did that, he came back to me. We were part of the discussion. Even she was a part of the discussion. And he said, do you agree, Mom? And told her name is Q. We call her Q. And said that, hey, do you agree with this train of treatment? Yes. Thank you. Within 24 hours, she was ready to go. Because let's not take out of this discussion the mind part of it. Because mentally, if you're in the right space, it's conducive to your healing process. Because that's how she's able to control her disease. She often focuses on other things, good times or whatever, because I do understand that. I've been there when it becomes a little bit too much for me. That 1 year that she was in the hospital every month, the hospital stay could be a week and a half. We bring her home. We look around, here we are again. After 6 months, it started to do something to me when they came and said, we're going to admit her, Mother. And I already knew it. I had to tell them, could you just wait and let me, I had to go to the bathroom and cry.
Wow.
I had to do that. So I had to, so I could be strong and go on to the next step. So the mental, your mental state of mind has so much to do with your healing and your next steps. So the process that you're talking about, what made it good, they were open and honest. A smile to say, this is what I'm recommending. What do you think? To make us a part of that treatment, of that process.
And you know, I think that's very important too. Having that feeling of like everyone's working towards the answer. I think that's really important. Another thing that stood out to me from my conversations was that, and this was like mind blowing because I never thought about this. And it was like several people said, hey, you know, sometimes when I would travel, I would actually have to be concerned about like where I would, you know, cautious of where I'm going, because if I had a pain crisis, I may be in a place where no one knows how to, you know, knows how to take care of me or you know, like
she's had that experience too. She's had that experience too. She's
Wow.
had that very same experience.
I think a lot of times it's hard for people to even understand, you know, when it's not physical, when people can't see your pain, you know. So if I can't see your pain, then I'm not really going to be able to, you know, sympathize with what you're going through. And I think that's probably, you know, with a lot of people that are having this physical pain, that the people that are in the profession, they automatically think, oh, well, if you're telling me that you're in pain, and if you can talk about your pain, then that's probably, you know, that's why you want drugs. So I think that has a lot to do with, you know, not being able to really, like, you know, if you have a different type of illness where, like, for example, or something happens where you go to the hospital and you have a broken bone and they, you know, they can see that. So if they can physically see it, then they're like, okay, well, we'll give you pain for this. But when someone's actually explaining and saying, this is what I'm dealing with, and, you know, I know they always say, what's your pain level? You know, rate your pain level. But if I tell you my pain level and then you don't give me the drugs to help me deal with that pain level, then what is the purpose of even asking me like where I'm at on, you know, as far as my pain is concerned? So I think,
you are absolutely right, Danielle, really, because when she comes to the hospital, she's not screaming, she's not out of control, because she's found that mind that she's focused on holding it and having a focal point is almost like the Lamans method. She's actually learned how to do that. So she's not out of control. So that oftentimes, and she's learned how to do this as a child. And they're often saying, well, I don't hear her. She's not doing anything. I said, she's been at home sick for 3 days. She's telling me it's getting out of control. I need help. So you're absolutely right what you're saying.
And we do also have some questions here. Let me see. Yep. Let me see. Can you guys see the question, or should I go ahead and read it? Okay. Someone asks, is there a high suicide rate for people that suffer from sickle cell due to the false labels, constant pain, etc.?
That is a good question.
I was just about to say that.
That is a great question.
That is a great question. I will say this though, from my conversations, so you have to also remember that there aren't a lot of medications out there for people with sickle cell. So that also leads to a mental state of you feeling hopeless, right? So if you feel hopeless, that thought may cross your mind. And I have had, you know, conversations with people where it's like they felt hopeless. So while I don't know the exact answer to that, I will say that people do feel hopeless because of lack of funding in the area, a lack of, you know, like you said, respect, a lack, just, I mean, you have to think like all the stuff that we just, you know, just discussed, and just feeling unwanted, all those things. I would not be surprised if that was an issue.
We also have another question.
I wouldn't either. I wouldn't be surprised either, especially if they don't have a support system. I was lucky enough that, you know, I did have a support system, that somebody's listening to you and that they're, okay, then let me have my little break down, and then I can get up and get myself back together, and then I'm ready to go. I'm good to go. Someone is constantly saying there's nothing wrong with you. You can do it. But what if you don't have that? What if you don't have anybody to say that to you? That's hard. That's a hard place to be.
We have another question. Is sickle cell an African American disease?
No. So sickle cell affects other ethnicities as well. I mean, like for individuals that are Hispanic, it's like 1 out of every 16,000. So it does impact other ethnicities. It just or races. It just impacts African Americans at, the highest frequency. So yeah, it's not specific to Black people.
Let me see. When do you consider bone marrow transplantation in the treatment of sickle cell?
I'm not a doctor, so I'm not going to comment on that one. But do you have a comment?
I heard a little bit about that. Right now, one of the things that they're talking about is gene editing, and it's a technique. It's called CRISP. Again, it has to do with your DNA, going in there and doing that. Do we jump at all of these things right away? I'm gonna tell you, we don't. When I say we, me and my daughter don't, because we try to see, okay, then, yeah, we do sit back and we look at to see what's the outcome. She's here, she's listening. I wish she was on the phone because she keeps up with what are some of the side effects of these different things. I see somebody talking about CRISP right now. Yes, because I keep up with all of those. I'm not a doctor, but I'm a mother. Yep. And this is something that affects my child. So I look at all of the side effects that are out there, and we do wait, and we want to see over a period of time what are some of the side effects to that. So I've heard that it's helped some people, and I heard that it has not helped some people.
Mm-hmm.
So we have another question. Why is sickle cell high within the African American community?
That's a great question. I would my answer to that would be because first of all, there's a lack of funding. People don't know. Like if you don't know about it, you don't know you're passing it to. You don't know all these things. It's going to naturally increase the rate.
That's right. And so genetic testing. If you don't have access to genetic testing, then you have someone that they're a carrier for the trait, you're a carrier for the trait, you have a child, just not having, and I know, within my community and within my family, we don't talk about genetic testing, and not a lot of people are very informed when it comes to, should I get a genetic test? Like, for me, like breast cancer runs in our family. So I really want to get, genetic testing just because I know that that's something that runs in our family. But a lot of times families don't have that conversation. We don't talk to other family members. Like, say, for example, if you have a family member that finds a lump in their breast, they don't go around telling everybody else in the family, like, hey, I had a lump. You just want to let you know, just, so you can be careful. So I think also being comfortable to talk about, sickness and diseases within the Black community. Like, we have to have more conversations about this. And so it's like if you have a lack of knowledge and you're not educated, it definitely makes it very difficult.
Yep. Someone said lack of health insurance. Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
We were very, very blessed that we had very, very good insurance. But even then, if you there are different agencies and different things that you can still do. So I still say find those resources. You have to find the resources. Right now we have the marketplace, we have some other things. So you asked me about challenges. I won't let it stop me.
Yep.
One of the things that someone told me that I was tenacious. And that means that, nope, I won't let it go. So I think that sometimes from a community is that we are so strong and we're tough, but sometimes not in the right places. So yes, I, I'm a fighter. She's a fighter. And nope, I'm not going to let those barriers stop me.
Yep.
I'm going to still challenge them. I'm going to still be there. So they might tell me that, no, we don't have that. I'm going to say, well, where do I go to get it? Who do I talk to? How do I create it? What do we need to do? If you're not the person, then who's the person? Where do I need to go? But to be tough.
Wow.
I just have a question as far as what is the best group for someone who has sickle cell? Where can they find that support? Where?
You know, that's one of the issues that I've noticed with sickle cell is that it's so fragmented, like the support and the health system, especially when you get past, pediatrics, they become adults. It's hard to find the support system that you need. And it's like you may have a group over here, you may have a group over here, and it's hard to find like kind of that solid support group. So I would say, if you're moving somewhere and you're trying, just make sure before you move, make sure that there's some type of support group in that area. There are a bunch of them out there, though. I will say that. But yeah, it's really bad for people with sickle cell when it comes to finding support and just like I said, the funding and all that stuff.
I tell you, go ahead, Adam. I'm sorry. As a child, the one that I used the most was the Sickle Cell Center. They were so awesome. Now, if you get with a group that is that listens, that is an advocate for you. One time, the hospital wanted to discharge her, and I said that she can't even walk. She couldn't hardly breathe. A whole lot of other things. I had to call the center, and the doctor had to get involved. Yes.
What?
I had to call the center, and I called them. They were the ones who had. Even for the Freedom Tour, we had to raise money. They then told me, they said, if she doesn't raise all her money, we're going to give her the rest of the money.
Oh, that's amazing.
They had a teenage girls group there where the girls could all be together and they could talk about their disease. They could talk about boys. They could talk about all of those things because, and try to be as normal as possible.
Absolutely.
They were the ones who sponsored the camp. She did get sick at camp. And they did all the right things. They called me. They said, "Mom, she's sick. We're getting ready to come down." The doctor got in the ambulance, and they did all the right things. So I didn't have to worry.
Right.
We just have
they follow her to this day.
See, that's amazing. That is the type of care and like. I feel like that's the type of care that people need, especially when you're dealing with something like that. You have to, you need a support system that, doesn't just like give up at the, like you need people around you that are going to be there. And that's one of the things that I heard too, like just from my talks is that, a lot of the, even like when they're going to a hospital and stuff, like they have to have family members around them, people that they know are going to like you said, like you are literally what you are a prime example, like they have to have someone at the hospital to like give pushback to the nurses and the doctors who, are just going to create a tough situation for them because they may not be physically able to just tolerate it or mentally able to just.
That's right. Yeah, and I do realize that there are some parents who aren't from two-parent homes. She was from a two-parent home. So where I left off, her dad was there. So we worked in contingent to them. But then we often saw patients that did not have that. And for whatever reason, parents working or whatever, they tend to shove them aside because nobody's watching. Does that make sense? Yep. Nobody's watching. But I'm watching. I'm still, I'll be the surrogate mom or whatever. And so I start looking.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I had a hopefully am I taking up all the time? Sorry. Are we
Yes. If I'm being honest, yes.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I'm sorry,
No
people.
worries. I know we are having a good conversation, but I just want to be very conscious of people's time. And I just want to say some of the couple of things that people have said. One person, let me see, he says he knows someone in Atlanta, ATL. Several people in Atlanta have had transplants for sickle cell and are doing fine after 10 years. He said, I can put you in touch with one lady whose daughter donated marrow to her and cured her. She volunteers with me. I'm helping a few search for donors right now. I volunteer with Be the Match.
That's another thing. Not enough of us are donors. I am. I'm a part of that too, because my sorority, we did do a program, and so I kind of spearheaded that, and so I am a donor too as well. But nobody's ever called me. But not enough of the of our community are a part of that.
Yep.
Does Q qualify as far as a donor?
I don't know. That's something that again that I'm sure she knows about because we've talked a little bit about it. So a lot comes up to her what it is that she wants to do.
So another person said, I found out via genetic testing that my husband is a carrier and therefore my daughter is a carrier for sickle cell. So it is our job to educate her about sickle cell. So when she finds a spouse, they are aware of the possibilities.
Absolutely. She is absolutely right. Again, I have these SC. Q has SC. So there's different types of sickle cell disease, and to understand that.
Mm-hmm.
Do we have any final thoughts? Anything that we would like for people to know?
At least on my end, if there are any nurses, doctors, whoever on this call, I just ask that you have a little empathy. If you do encounter someone with sickle cell, listen before you judge.
Yeah.
and really just take the time with, and that's not even just sickle cell. Just listen to people,
Yeah.
and take the time to understand people, and you may even make a friend. But that's all I have.
Yep. Yep. I agree with Adam too. That is so very, very important. And how your mental state has so much to do with the healing process.
Okay. And so this is one last question because I feel like this is an important question. How do you qualify as a sickle cell donor and what is the process? If anyone knows.
I'm sorry, what'd you say? I couldn't hear you.
How do you qualify to be a sickle cell donor and what is the process?
Like donate blood?
I believe so. They're talking about, because it's a blood transfusion. So it's just,
you
right?
Just donate blood. You just donate blood so that people can get transfusions.
Okay.
If I'm correct.
But I wonder if they're also talking about, in order to be a part of a clinical study, is there something that a person has to do, Adam, in order to be a part of the clinical study? I wonder if they're asking that.
Yeah, I've never encountered that situation.
Okay.
But that I can look into that. If whoever's asking the question, they can reach out to me and I'll look into that. I'll get an answer for that.
Okay. Or what if they're talking about being, donating bone marrow, possibly?
Now you might want to reach out. So you might want to reach out to the hospital and see, because I know you have to be like a match too.
Okay. Well, I just want to thank everyone for joining us tonight. And I want to thank my cousin Vivian for telling her story and her journey with her and my cousin Q. And I want to thank Adam Brown from Clinark from speaking about, sickle cell. And if you guys are interested, I think we can, Adam, did you drop your information in here so people?
I can drop it now.
Okay. So if people would like to reach out And cousin, are you open to people talking to you about sickle cell?
I have no problem about it at all. If it'll help someone, not a problem.
Okay, so if you put the best way to contact you in the chat, if anyone, wants to hear more about your journey and how you have dealt with it as a parent.
Okay. I have no problem with that at all. But Daniel, I'm gonna let you do that. You're a little bit more savvy about putting my information.
Okay.
So go ahead and put my my
Oh, I'm dropping. Okay, I think I dropped. Can everyone
Yes.
see what I just put?
Yeah, they can.
I don't.
Can. So what's your email address, cousin?
VivianTalbert.hr@gmail.com. It's very easy.
VivianTalbert.hr. Is that right?
Uh-huh.
At what? Gmail.com?
gmail.com.
Okay. Hopefully I spelled your name right, cousin. I hope.
It's a little bit different.
Two N's, right?
Yep.
Okay.
That's it. That's me.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. Oh, someone just put a little note for everyone. If anyone's interested in becoming a potential marrow donor for patients with sickle cell, you can reach out to me. I manage a center that works with donors that match patients through the Match Donor Registry. So we have a lot of people that are here.
That is great.
Are very
great.
I want to reach out to you as well.
I can also save this chat, but that looks like her name is
please.
Stephanie. Stephanie Dorm. Apologies if I say it incorrectly.
Hey Stephanie, can you send me a message?
Well, thank you so much, everyone. You have a great night. Thank you.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
And continue to be safe. Bye-bye.
Thank you. You as well. Bye-bye.